Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is May 26, 2017, last Friday of May, before we plow headlong into the heat of the summer, right? I don't know. It seems to be interesting. We've had a couple of little spurts of hot weather, and then it's been below normal temperatures, I want to say. But also rainy, too. I'm not really sure what to expect for this summer at this point. It's either going to be ridiculously hot or it's going to be another mild summer like we've had the last couple of years where it hasn't been particularly warm. I will, gladly take that latter, as I'm not a particularly big fan of sweating. Who is, right? So we got a bunch of little kit announcements that have come in here. Aoshima has done their sort of uh, fill in for the next 2 months, and then of course we have all the kit releases, and we have the some new products to talk about, as well as all of the images from the Shizuoka Hobby Show for the new kits that are going to be coming out over the summer from the various Japanese manufacturers. So on the new side of things, on the kit announcement side of things, we've talked about this kit before in the past when it was announced, but officially up for pre-orders now for the month of June is the BMAX Toyota Corolla TA64 rally car for the 1984 Portugal Rally. We've talked about it again in the past. This kit is going to have new wheels, new tires, as well as a entirely new suspension sprue, as it were, because this is a tarmac rally car, and the original Safari edition, of course, is a uh, gravel off-road rally car. So new suspension to lower the car, as well as new tarmac tires and new tarmac wheels. Beyond that, the kit is pretty much the same. There is going to be a detail upset for it that will be specific to the kit, as BMAX likes to do. They make their photo etch specific to each individual release. So there is a Portugal Rally specific photo etch if you're interested in that type of thing. Over in July, some add-ons, like I said, for Aoshima, because of course they, have released their big long July list, which was mostly in the sense of the stuff that was announced at Shizuoka or on the Shizuoka flyer. So these are sort of fill-in stuff to fill in the rest of the month here. There's going to be another run of the Brian James A4 transport trailer if you still have not got one. So if they're, if it's sold out, you can't find one, they will be doing another release. This will be July. They're going to be doing 4 more of the Grand Champion kits. These 4 plus the ones that are going to be coming out in the month of June, that'll take them up to kit number 12 of 16 of the original series. Those kits again haven't been released since 2008. Also, part of the reason why this series is being reissued is because all of the little 14-inch wheel sets that are being reissued through the summer belong in these Grand Champion kits. So it's sort of a 6 one, half dozen the other. We're going to run the kits off, so we're going to run the wheel sets. So it all makes sense. And these next 4, which are, like I said, 9, 10, 11, and 12, if you look up the Grand Champions list, again, they're going in numerical order, would be the Nissan Skyline 4-door early. It's like a 1970, I want to say 78 Skyline, something along those lines. A Toyota Chaser GX41, the Nissan Laurel C130, and the Ken and Mary GTR, which of course is like the 72 GTR. They're going to be doing another run of the A6 Toyota Truno Initial D Volume 37 kit. This is the one we always recommend to you guys if you're looking into getting a Truno of any kind, even if you don't want to build it as the comic book car, as this one has the race interior and all of the engine parts and all of the interior parts that were added over the years. So again, it's the best value out there as far as that kit goes. And then they're going to be reissuing 2 of their older in the sense of like 2003, but older Toyota Crown Royal police cars. One is going to be the Tokyo Metro, and the other one is the Kanagawa Prefecture police vehicle. So there's 2 different kits there. Difference between the 2, primarily the liveries for the police vehicles themselves. And then going over into August, these will be all, stuff that we haven't ever talked about yet because these are just officially coming out here. They're going to be doing some more wheel sets in 20-inch wheels. You're going to have the fabulous Various MB5 Face 3, the Garson DAD Zingling, which are the wheels that are on the Garson DAD Honda Odyssey. Traffic Star DTX, and then a 16-inch wheel set known as the Muscle Magic AW Steel Daytona. These look like NASCAR rims or Daytona trailer wheels, basically. These were in a VIP set for a Toyota Hiace. At least that's how the packaging for it the last time it was reissued was shown. So technically it's a VIP wheel, although being a 16-inch wheel, it's much smaller, obviously, than the 20-inch wheels that you normally get. So, it gives you the opportunity to run a different style steel wheel than the normal, just regular steely, as it were. Uh, on pre-paints, they're going to be doing 3 Toyota Crown pre-paints. One is going to be the 2013 Crown Athlete in pink. This was a promotional color that was done when the new Crown Athlete, Crown Royals were announced with a body style rechange in 2013. It's Pepto-Bismol pink. So, and then since we've talked about before, they've sort of updated the kits a little bit in the front fascia areas and things like that to the 2015 specifications. They're going to be doing a 2015 Crown Royal in a white pearl and a 2015 Crown Athlete in black. And then in the model car lineup, they're going to reissue their 1980 Subaru Sandbar 4-wheel drive. This is old Best Car Vintage kit in the sense of what the kit contents are like, but there's going to be new decals. They're going to be putting a lot of the old parts from various Sandbar reissues. This thing is supposed to have a surfboard in it and a bunch of other stuff. The box art shows it having a rubber dinghy on top of the roof, so I'm not sure if that really comes with it or not, but they're pretty good about not showing things that are not showing things that you can't have. They're not Fujimi in that sense. So there's a bunch of extra parts in that. And then they're going to be doing a reissue of their early 4-door Skyline. This is going to be branded a 1979 Nissan Skyline 2000 GTE/S. Much like several of their other Skylines they announced at Shizuoka, this is going to have new front and rear pieces put into it as far as the grille and headlight surrounds and the rear taillight areas, as well as what they're calling genuine alloy rims, which are the factory stock wheels, and 14-inch tires, so that you can build this as a factory stock car. I believe it'll still have the parts in it to build like the 1978 or 77 or something in there. These are all sort of like, taking an existing kit and adding new parts to it, the way they did with that Celica kit from the late 1970s. So it is a Best Car Vintage in its origins, but again, these are going to be added some new parts to it to produce a model that they have not done before. There has not been a 79 Skyline done before. In the Tune model car lineup, there will be doing a reissue of the 2003 Toyota Crown K-Brake Hyper Zero Custom version 1 and the 2007 Subaru WRX STI Ings tuner version. Be interesting to see if that's just going to be the Ings version or if they're going to do the yellow one too, because there's a World Rally Blue Ings car, and then there was a yellow car, which I think was a June car, technically not Ings, but they tend to be packaging things like, into value packaging with these things, so be interesting to see what exactly we're going to get out of that. But that is the announcements for this week of hobby excitement, as it were. So that's going to take us over into products and whatnot. So I guess really what there is to talk about in the terms of new product announcements would first off be this flyer that has come out. And these wheels are up for pre-order on Hobby Search. They are not on Hobby Link Japan as of yet, but I would expect them to be there probably Monday. Remember, there is no Memorial Day in Japan for those guys. Their Memorial Day is a different day. And they are orange wheels. Now, this is a company that is a sort of a subset of Asuka, the guys who make mostly military stuff, but they, of course, did the 124 scale Bantam Jeep as well. The orange wheels, we've talked about them before. There are, let's see, I would say 4 different sets of them, well, 5 different sets now of these wheel sets. They're going to be doing this new one they're calling a 5-star. Looks like a TE37, basically. They're going to be available either in unpainted white or in chrome, as you can see. And then the big thing for people who are fans of orange wheels, because these wheels did not come with tires. all of the sets are just sets of wheels. You had to provide your own tires. Is the fact that they're now going to be offering one of the tire sets. Now, this does have a taper to it, as you see there. They are stretch tires, so they're designed to be a little bit of a camber to them. It's not something you necessarily have to use in terms of the camber. If you just run them flat, they're going to look, or without camber, it'll still look normal, but they are tapered with that, sort of pre-built camber in there so that they will sit flat, no matter, well, not no matter, but, with a minimal amount of camber, they'll still sit flat. There is no such thing as, well, you camber it as much as you want to, it will still sit flat because it's not going to. But this will allow you probably pretty much like the factory stock Rocket Bunny kits from Aoshima, that camber, some of the VIP wheels that the VIP kits that have been done by Aoshima as well for things like the Crown Athletes, the Crown Majestas, things like that. Those kits have camber that you could put in. You don't have, but you don't necessarily have to, but they all have pretty much the same sort of factory stock, if you will, factory stock tuner camber. And this would be sort of the same thing. Like I said, it's a big deal because previously these tires were not available to anyone outside of Japan. You had to sort of know somebody who knew somebody to get them for you, and these are going to be in, like I said, wide distribution. They'll be easily accessible for everybody through all of your normal self-importation channels. And then one thing from Playmos real quick before we go into other things is this. This is the detail upset for the Revell of Germany McLaren 570S. You can see here it's going to come with photo etch, as well as the photo etch / resin seatbelt thing that they normally do. There's going to be some decals that'll go with the metal transfers to properly create the two-dimensional, or I said two-dimensional, three-dimensional scripting and things like that. I lose my mind. And then there's also that resin hatch. I believe the resin hatch is for the 540C, as there are also photo etch parts in here for the actual hatch that comes with the kit. I believe the hatch for the 540C is slightly different. And this photo etch set does come with various little pieces and parts to convert the 570S backwards, if you will, into the 540C, the slightly detuned version of the car. So that's very cool that all of those parts come with it and give you the option to build it that way. So let's go to the Shizuka stuff real quick before we go into kit releases, because there's just a few pictures here to sort of flip through real quick. First up is going to be from Aoshima, and that's going to be this built test shot of the Liberty Walk R35 GTR version 1. Obviously, most of this kit already exists in the sense of the the R35 GTR kit has been around since 2008 and updated, every so often since then. I want to say this is like a 2012-ish GTR, maybe even one of the 2008 as far as the parts content goes, because this GTR was built a while ago. It's not brand new. Obviously, you have new wheels, the over fenders, the front fascia is different, the ducktail spoiler on the back, and things like that. But of course, primarily the majority of this kit has already been done, as it's already something that's again been out for close to 10 years at this point. Moving over to Hasegawa, here's a shot of the Suzuki Jimny JA1 with its new front bumper, front grille, steering wheel, parking brake, or not parking brake, gear shift, and mirrors. Also a new set of decals in it as well. If you look in the very back behind it, there is the little touring version of the Honda N360. I'm referring you to the picture there because this picture sort of doesn't have it in it, but it does show the new parts tree with the new grille surround and the new decals and things like that to turn it into the N2 touring version. And then, of course, I think the one thing most people were interested in out of Hasegawa for the summer is the BMW 2002 Tii. So, hey, we finally got the built models. I will say here that these test shots, the chrome looks kind of hanky on them. Maybe it's just the images that Hasegawa took, because I'm pretty sure these are Hasegawa's pictures if I remember where I got them. And, it shows two different ones. Unfortunately, I believe the difference between the two in terms of like the tail lights is not shown here because whoever took these pictures, the turntable had the white card to the back the whole time. But there also, I believe it does show the different mirror the different exterior mirror options. And then here are the actual parts runners themselves to show you what you're going to be getting. This first one here has the body on it as well as the chrome, which again, like I said, this chrome looks kind of cruddy, so I'm assuming that this will not be the chrome that we actually get in the production version, hopefully. You see there's a one-piece glass along with some other, headlights and things like that, some new tires. That piece up there says ×2. Of course, is the interior for the front seats. So the front seat's going to be 4 pieces, a front, a back, and then a 2-piece headrest. And then you have some trim pieces up there on the top, and then there's wheels up there. Of course, they ×2 because they have, for some reason, always cast their wheels in little short runners like that, and then they give you 2 of the runners. And then here's the other side of the parts runners here, where you have the top sprue being the chassis, basically. It does have the blanks for the license plates as well. Almost all of this is chassis parts. You got your front and rear uprights, your steering arm, your front and rear suspension, as well as the exhaust in there. And you do see that there is not an engine in this kit. It is molded with the bottom of the engine detail and then a separate transmission. So that gives you a little bit of wiggle room in the sense of detail, but like most Hasegawa kits, it is a curbside. And then you have the interior section down here at the bottom. For some reason, I know for some reason, because obviously displaying it upside down would have all of the other parts be backwards, but you don't get to see what the interior tub detail looks like. It does look like it is a tub in the sense that it doesn't have separate door cards, but it does have a separate back seat, as well as you got your dashboard and a couple of different pieces there, center console, your steering wheel, your couple different, looks like 2 different style gauge clusters, as well as your steering column, if you will, and a pedal set. I find the assortment of parts there to be interesting in the sense that it clearly shows that there are going to be other versions of this kit down the road. There's a big chunk of area missing off of the clear parts tree. There's a big chunk of it missing off of the chrome parts tree. There's a big chunk missing off the interior parts tree, as well as looking like there should be like a second half of the the seats. There's like it's like this part, and there's a big gap beside it. So that would lead me to believe that certain parts of this are gated off, so they're not doing the giving you the parts to the kit that you can't build, basically, as it were. The interesting part also to me about there being a separate back seat would indicate that possibly there is a race car version of this kit in the offing. I can't promise you guys anything. That is entirely speculation upon my part, but an educated guess with the back seat being separate. That is a thing that Hasegawa has done in the past with things like the Honda Civic and the Toyota Corolla AE101 and things like that, where the back seats for the civilian vehicles were separate pieces so that the stripped out interior tub, for lack of a better term, doesn't have to be modified into race trim. They can just put a roll cage into it and racing seats and be on their happy way. So again, very cool to see all that stuff. It's certainly a kit that I've wanted for a while, just in a BMW collections sort of way. So great to see them do it. I know there'll be some people that complain there's no engine, but you know what? Revell of Germany didn't do it, and Hasegawa did. So more than likely, unless Revell of Germany follows the line of redoing some of the old Tamiya kits like the Mini Cooper and things like that, they're not gonna now because this kit exists, and Revell has always been very loathing to duplicate existing efforts, especially new ones. So that'll take us lastly to BMAX. They had a bunch of their sort of rapid prototypes out. Kind of interesting to see that some of this stuff wasn't past rapid prototype state, or at least not that they were willing to show. The thing that's supposed to be done up next after the after this Brabham F1 car comes out over the summer, with a tentative release of August, which of course is malarkey, but I'm just going to roll with you and tell you what they said, is the Volvo 240T 1984 Ghia Race of Macau version. Makes sense that they're branding it for Macau. That's where they're from. Obviously, the 240T raced beyond Macau. But the decal set you should expect will be a Gia Race of Macau decal set. Again, they're saying August. This does show a few little things in terms of like the headlight is separate from the bucket on the left headlight. You can see into the interior portion a little bit, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but you'll see in a second it is. Uh, it's like I said, I'm very excited about this. This is a very cool vintage race car, vintage in the 1980s, but at this point, hey guys, that's 30 years ago, 33 years ago actually. And for somebody like me who collects Gia Race and Macau stuff, it's very cool to have something to plug in an earlier race car too. They also showed off their Audi S1. This one obviously getting a little closer to being done as well, since again they're showing off some interior pieces, but it's still a rapid prototype, not an actual test shot. They had test shot stuff done for parts of the interior before, but they chose to, when I said, wheel out the rapid prototype again. This one's they never showed the rapid prototypes of any of these things before. They always showed 3D CAD drawings, so it's something different than what we've seen in the past. Next up is the Lancia Delta. I will go to this. It's the S4, the Super Delta. Obviously, this one is further behind in production, even though it was announced right after the Audi. As you're not seeing any parts of the interior, and this kit is supposed to have supposed to be their first full detail kit in the sense of having an engine and all that. Obviously, the engine in this is the supercharged, turbocharged thing, and the car will just look silly without the engine in there anyway, because the whole back half of the car is just a roll cage with an engine melted into it. Group B being high horsepower, very low weight cars, so. Leaving that out, I'm not exactly sure how you would even do the rear suspension area, because you would be in a pickle basically to really articulate that in a convincing manner without the engine, at least in my opinion, which is probably why they were doing the engine in the first place. A kit that they just announced here back at Nuremberg, that was just a piece of paper, is the Porsche 935 K2. This one, of course, seems to be getting along a little further as well. It does show parts of the interior in this. And then last but not least is a new announcement for the Shizuoka Hobby Show that had not broke prior to the show, and that is this. This is a Toyota Corona Japanese Touring Championship car from 1992. This would be basically the car before the Corona Exiv that Tamiya did for the 1994-1995 season. So this is right before that. Technically, this is an E190 or something like that. It's cool because, again, this car raced JTCC. I believe it raced Macau, and it was also done in British Touring Championship. For some reason, this car, don't know exactly why this car in particular, but this car was exported to the UK for that racing season and racing series. There were, I believe, 2 works cars that ran 92, 93. And then there were like 3 or 4 privateer entries that ran 92 through, I believe, 95. I'd have to go back and actually look at the seasons, but it didn't really particularly do too well in a works car. But in the privateer was a different division in BTCC in the mid-1990s, and this car won the privateer championship every year it was in, or like several years in a row. I might have run, maybe skipped a year, maybe 94, they didn't, but they won 92, 93, and 95. So it was a very popular car with the non-works or semi-works teams, and it was very, very successful in that. Wasn't particularly successful as a works car against the BMWs and things like that, but in the privateer's hands, in that class, it was championship material the whole way around. So it's a very interesting little piece of automotive history in that sense. Let me scroll through here while I'm sitting here blabbering about JTCC to make sure that is all of those, and it is. So let's go to kit releases. So there's one kit release out for the month of May so far on the domestic side of things. You may recall there's only 2 of them. So most people probably have already seen this because we're running like a week behind on our schedule here. But the Revell Foose Ford FD100 pickup truck is out. And this kit has already, of course, it was out, and then some pictures of it floated out, and then the controversy erupted. And the controversy, of course, is that there are still people, some of them fairly well-known names in the hobby with very large subscriber bases, making giant fools of themselves, are insisting that this is still not a new toolkit, that this is either a reissue of the old 56 Ford that Revell did, or also I've seen a few people that have also said that this is the 55 Ford that Monogram did with different box art. And of course, both cases are wildly and totally incorrect. This is a brand new tool kit. It is 78 pieces. That is more pieces than the Monogram kit, but less pieces than the Revell kit. There are a number of things about this kit that are tooled up very specifically that are different than the either of the two preceding kits. Um, One of the things you get out of this kit that's very cool in the sense of the fact that this was 3D scanned is that the big and little wheels are not just wide and widers. They are legitimately two different diameters that are visually determinable as being two different diameters, aka the rear wheels are a larger diameter than the front ones. They are not just a set of wide and wider tires. There are new tires for this as well, because obviously there were no tires that would fit this. The one downside to this kit that you see some commentary online is the fact that it does have metal axles in the front and the back. The front one does go through the engine block a la an old Johan kit or an AMT Craftsman era kit. And this posited another completely false narrative that this kit was supposed to be a pre-painted kit, and they decided not to do it that way. So first we'll deal with that, and then we'll go back and deal with the fact that this is not a retool of an existing kit. So the reason why this isn't a pre-paint and why that narrative doesn't work is that everybody remembers that this kit and the Eldorado, the 48 Cadillac that's coming later this summer, were voted on by everybody for these new tool kits. Anybody who could Google it if they wanted to, but anybody who remembers, like 3 years ago when the announcement was put out and the agreement was put forward in public domain, the licensing agreement for Foose for this set of kits that ran for the last 3 years was 2 snap-tight kits, 2 pre-paint kits, and 2 all-new glue kits. Well, we've gotten the first 4, and the only 2 things left were the glue kits. It did not say 3 pre-paint kits. It didn't say 4 pre-paint kits. It said 2 pre-paint kits. And the 2 pre-paint kits are the 15 Stingray and the 13 Challenger SRT8. This was not designed to be a pre-paint kit. If it was designed to be a pre-paint kit, that would mean that they had planned to do this pickup truck no matter what you voted on in the first place. It just was convenient that it happened to win. And then the Eldorado was second. That would open a huge can of worms that would imply effectively that Revell had rigged its own contest. I don't think that would necessarily be a huge shock to anybody who follows politics. Right now, we're all arguing, and I'm not even going to go into the politics of it. We're all arguing about rigged elections, are we not? The last thing Revell needs, and Chip Foose for that matter needs, is the bad press of the vote for what you want being a lie. It's not a pre-paint. It's 78 pieces and simplified. Like the chassis itself is 9 total pieces. The interior is about 5. The bed is cast in one piece, with the exception being the bed floor, which is also cast to the running boards, and we'll show you that in a second. Because this is a one-and-done kit, guys. There's no other variations of this coming. There's no way to make a stock 56 Ford out of this. It can't be made into anything else. It's Chip Foose's dad's design, then his design, and now his kid's going to get it afterwards. 56 Ford. That's it. It's had a whole bunch of stuff done to the car. I don't care how much you think it looks like a stock 56. When you compare it to a stock 56, it doesn't look anything like it. Jesse Chavez, thanks for the photo that we blatantly stole off Model Cars Magazine's forum. But you can see in this picture that the front axle is moved completely forward in the fender to accommodate the C5 front suspension that comes with this car in real life. The roof looks a little weird in this photo because the roof top is a separate piece. This was done to basically accurately create the front to rear rake because the thing is chopped in real life. And, trying to tool that in a one piece was, not technically feasible. So it became a 2-piece construction. And then, of course, one of the big things, the reason why the roof, is lower on this Foose than it is on the original 56 Ford is that the thing has been sectioned and it has had all of the sheet metal between the top of the door and the bottom of the window frames taken out. So it doesn't have a chop like the roof was chopped, although it does have a slight chop to the A pillar to the B pillar. The reason why it's lower is because that entire section is missing. The hood is pancaked. This thing is channeled and chopped and sectioned and everything else. It is not, are not, will not, is not a retool of the existing kit. It is brand new steel being cut. You want more proof? Fine. Let's go to the beautiful bean footage, as it were. So let's compare the things. These instruction manuals, by the way, are all still on Revel's website. So if you don't believe me, you can go look it up yourself. But let's take a look at the engines between the two. Well, the 56 Ford from Revel. So clearly this has the old 1950s V8 in it, right? Or maybe this is even a flathead at this point. But your engine is a whole bunch of pieces here. Your transmission is separate. All this sort of good stuff. The 55 Ford, aside from being the wrong scale entirely, because there's a 124 scale monogram kit, well, that has a 351 or a 302 HO Mustang engine in it. So here's how to build that. And you see, it's a more traditional 1980s monogram tool here, where it's just two halves of a block, and build up from there, and then you get a little shot of the frame rail there, which is just the frame rails itself, right? That's important to remember. And then here's the how to build your engine in the new Foose truck. The new Foose engine is a 451 cubic inch NASCAR-inspired Roush block, serial number 1 of these engine that Roush is making. That is based on the old 427 FE side oiler. Completely different engine, right? We all agree that these are 3 separate engines, so they're not even tool based off each other, because of course the 55 is a 124 scale kit that came out 20 years after the 56 was done by Revell as a 125th scale kit, but clearly different engine. So this should, right now, you've looked at 2 steps of the instructions for the Foose kit, and you should already be like, well, this is a new tool kit. What the scrapple are we talking about? But apparently that's not enough. So let's move on from there. Well, we have the way that the chassis goes together, right? Well, here's the 56 Ford, and it's also have the way the interior builds up, which is also important. So here's the way the chassis builds up on the 56 Ford. You see, you've gotten 4 spring suspension. It is the old school 1956 construction with a battery box. You got shocks on the front and the trailing linkage on the front there for the steering arm, and then the chassis pan already has the bottom of the interior molded into the frame rails. So that's already one piece. Then you add the side rails to it, and then you build the entire interior, which also has a 2-piece fuel tank right there on the platform on the frame. You have your choice of stock or custom seats. Ooh, so sexy, right? So then you have, let's say, how the 55 monogram kit builds, right? So it has a separate frame that already has the battery box molded into the side of it. And then you put the exhaust on, and here's the back axle here. Well, this is like several more pieces, and this is a street rod kit. So the front has disc brakes. I'm not exactly sure what this is supposed to be representing, maybe a Mustang 2 setup or something like that, where, this is sort of a coil-over shock in the back and whatnot. And then we go into how you build the interior here, where the interior, notice how it's kind of hard to see in the way this is drawn out, but the bed itself is molded to the interior bucket, which are building off the floor of, basically, right? There's no door cards to either one of these things. And this has the frame rail, the side steps mounted into the bed. Okay, so we're all together on that. So once we go from there, well, let's talk about how you actually construct the 56 Ford in terms of the cab and the bed. The 56 Ford has opening doors. Everybody should remember this. This is what makes this kit so craptastic, is the fact that the doors don't fit unless you have one of the original kits when the tool was still fresh. But you have to put the inner fender wells into it, which is what actually pins the door hinges in, and the hood is several pieces, and then you build the bed, and the bed is several pieces with the bed. Well, here's a key part. The bed floor is mounted into the bed, then you add the step sides to it. The tailgate's like 5 pieces there, and then you mount the as you can do final assembly here, you're mounting the bed, which has a tonneau cover. This is the Ed Roth version, which why the tonneau cover is there. And then you have, and then you're putting the the body onto the interior and the frame that's there, right? Okay, we're all together on that. So let's go over to talk about how the 55 builds up. Well, the 55 is a one-piece cab because obviously the doors aren't opening. And now you look here, you can better see how the interior is molded to the cab floor itself. You're going to put the chassis, the frame itself, onto the bottom of the interior and bed, which makes up the chassis floor itself. And then you build a 5-piece bed because you've still got that gas tank in the interior with you, right? You got the inner bed walls, the tailgate, and then the outer step bed walls. Clearly, though, that's a different construction method entirely, and also, it builds up the way it does. So let's take a look at how the Foose interior builds up. Well, holy magolly, here we got a actual modern interior as far as construction goes, because we have a floor, we have two door cards, we have a firewall, and then you get to see a little bit of how the dashboard goes together, which of course it doesn't have a 2-piece steering column. It doesn't have the door cards mounted to the doors itself. There's stereo speakers in the door because, of course, it's a custom truck that has a stereo in it and stuff like that. That's not the same. Let's look at final assembly here. Look at that. The bed is all one piece. This is really a very cool thing, by the way, guys, as far as the technology involved here. This is a very cool piece of sliding mold technology to mold this bed all as one piece and not have it be riddled with mold lines and ejector pins. From what I understand, because I personally, again, I don't have one in hand, but I've seen the pictures of it. It's really cool the way they managed to do this without, like I said, making a giant mess out of it. And then you put the bed floor into it, which has, again, the side steps mounted into the bed floor. But notice, not mounted into the chassis. And then you're not building the chassis floor off of the frame. You put the interior there, you put the cab on it, and shazam, you're done. Obviously, there's, building the hood up and things like that afterwards. I saw some people say, I've looked at the instructions of that Foose truck, and clearly it's just still the same old thing. You don't know how hard that makes me want to face desk. You don't understand how badly that makes me want to reach through your internet connection and disconnect you from it. I understand there's a whole thing about the old Foose kits and the fact that they don't look like the drawings on the box, which is another complete and total fallacy. If you actually look at any of the actual Foose kit cars, the real ones, not the drawing that Chip Foose did, but the real cars that were built on overhauling, the kits that Revell released, you know what? They look pretty much right on the real cars. You want proof of that? Real quick, before we go any further. One of the best examples of this is the 67 Dodge Coronet, right? Here's the box art for it. Ooh, that's swoopy. The roof is chopped. It looks like there's some extensions to the fenders because it's way bigger rear deck than the real car has. Very swoopy, very low to the ground, very everything, right? Well, here's what the actual overhauling car looks like. That's a factory stock roof, factory stock glass. The only thing about this was done was the engine has some, tuned pieces to it, because I can't remember how this car started, and I'm not going to go look how, what engine it had. I think it had a 383 when it came in, and of course the Revell kits have 426 Hemis in it, and it got like some Bumblebee stripe, and it got some big, Pro Touring wheels. That's it. For everybody who sits there and tells me about how much they love overhauling, and they watched that show and it made them weep like a baby. You obviously didn't watch the show very closely because they only had a week to build these cars before they foisted them off on their owners and got them into trouble with the IRS. Little known fact about being on overhauling, that is considered to be a prize, and you had to pay taxes on the gained value of these vehicles. And some of these cars had like $70,000 worth of work done to them. You're so busted and broke you can't fix your own car, but now you have this really, really cool car that you immediately have to sell because you can't afford to pay the income taxes on your prize. But be that as it may, here's what the actual kit from Revell looks like. This is what the built box art car looked like. You know what, guys? It's I don't think necessarily it's the right color, but it's the same wheels. It has the same ride height as the real car. It's got that bumblebee stripe. Yeah, yeah. You know what? It looks exactly. It looks exactly like the real car. It doesn't look like the box art because the box art doesn't look like the real car. Chip Foose is doing a caricature, basically, of the car. He's sketching something out real quick. Remember, it takes him like 5 minutes in the show, but it probably takes him like maybe 20 minutes in real life to do this. It's a concept. This is his imagination of what the car would look like. These are not the stuff he builds for Riddler. This isn't like the 65 Impala that he completely and totally chopped apart and stuff like that. This is a car that they stole off somebody effectively and had to build in a week before they gave it back. So these kits, all of them. You can complain that the 64 Impala doesn't really look like the real Foose car because the wheels are crappy. And the one big problem, of course, that all of these kits have are Revell's tires. They're not really low-profile gum band tires like are being used on the real cars. But as far as the ride height goes, pretty much spot on in all of them. As far as the parts go, yeah, the 68 Pontiac and the 64 Impala, as well as the 67 Coronet, did not necessarily include the engine modifications or the interior modifications that were done. You can argue that that is cheaping out on it, but remember, this is the very beginning of this whole relationship. Didn't know how well this whole concept would sell. Obviously, it sold well enough to make it into this whole other thing with new toolkits and whatnot. And then the 65 Impala and the 67 Dodge Charger had a number of additional parts to add to the engine and add to the interior to make them look more like the actual vehicle. Anybody who says that, well, this kit doesn't build like the box art, is giving the thing a dishonest, short shrift opinion of the kit. And frankly, puts me in the position of defending Revell, which makes me itchy, because Revell, I'm thinking they assume that you as an adult modeler have the intelligence and the wherewithal to realize that it's a cartoon on the box. It doesn't look like the model doesn't look like the box art because the real car doesn't look like the box art. You guys were all raised on like 1970s MPC box art where it was legitimately cartoons of the vehicles. And I don't recall anybody ever saying, well, I bought the Super Bee and it doesn't look nothing like this great big cartoon caricature on the box art. Why is it that these box arts are so offensive to everybody, whereas the old stuff is not? Also, why is everyone insisting that the car look like the box art? The real car doesn't look like the box art. The real car does not look like Chip Foose's drawing. This isn't stuff that Revell came up with. They're licensing Chip Foose's name and his concept drawings. Yeah, it would be really cool if the 67 Coronet was all swoopy like that, but it was, this is what the car would look like if, if I wanted, in my mind, and, but in reality, we have to go with the design items, the one-off wheels, the paint scheme, lowering it a little bit. Anyway, I'm done with that. I wanted to make a whole separate video about it, and I decided to try to take a little bit of a high road. But frankly, like I said, you put out y'all know who I'm talking about. Put out a video, it was 9 minutes long, rambled incoherently, talked about these things being a sham and the fact that they're not good kits and they don't look like what they're supposed to look like, and they in fact look exactly what they're supposed to look like. If you want to try to modify this to look like the drawing, God bless you. I'm not going to tell you shouldn't, but it's also not what the real car looks like, and that is what Revell is making models of. They're making replicas of the car, not the box art. Let's go into Japan, where we can talk about things that aren't quite as annoying. Hasegawa has a number of kits that they came out with here. All of them are reissues in one way or another. So let's start with this. This is the 1993 Subaru Impreza RAC Rally, the Royal Auto Club of the UK, their rally. So this is a reissue of that four-door Subaru. And then you have another reissue of the Porsche 962, this time in the Nisiki Trust livery, the Trust livery, sort of like the part of the Gretty Trust company that does all the body part modifications. Not quite the same thing back when this car ran, as we know them as today. But they were still a major automotive component manufacturer back then. I believe this is a new livery. Obviously, it's the same old 962 Hasegawa kit, but I believe this is a new livery for something they've not done before in the past. Reissue of the JTCC Jack Civic. This is, of course, the Ferio, the four-door Civic. So here is Kit Destruction in Action Part 2. What I guess was that March, we destroyed the value of the civilian street Ferio, and now we're going to trample and stomple all over the racing version. This does have some new parts added to it that are basically the same parts that are in the EG6 three-door Civic. That are those new suspension parts that tuck the wheels up underneath the chassis a bit more. So technically, they're not new parts in the global sense, but they are new parts to this kit. Be interested to see if they issue further versions of the Jacks of these four-door Civics. Depends on what the Jacks one sells, obviously. As there were, I believe, 4 of them, and at least 2. There's one other one that uses the same set of wheels that come in this kit, and then the other ones have different sets of wheels. So it'll be interesting to see what all, if any, we get more of those. And then last but not least, and this kit just came out today on Friday, is the Wild Egg Girls Kubel Wagon. This is the next in the line of kits that has the little figure with it. You get Claire Frost here, and I don't know what Claire has lost exactly. Claire Frost has lost. I know that rhymes, but Claire has lost something. She has work gloves on. She has a wrench in her left hand, and she is confused as the dickens as to where she put something. I'm thinking she should have took a picture of whatever it was before she took it apart. Maybe she can't find the instructions to this model kit. I don't know what it is she can't find, but the figure has the exact same facial expression and pose. With the same frilly bra and short shorts with cowboy boots, because that's how you'd fix a car. This otherwise is a reissue of their Type 82 Kubel wagon. It does have the high float tires rather than the road tires. So this is really an African version of this kit in the sense of it being desert tires and sand tires, basically, rather than it being street tires. There's some complaints about that, but as far as I was concerned, I like the idea of having a full detail 124 scale Kubel wagon more than I did care about what the wheels were like. So I'm going to roll with the sand high float tires. It's not that important to me that it doesn't have the street tires. There is a 124 scale Kubel wagon. If you're very, very interested in it, you'd have to go dig it up because it would be out of production at this point. That does come with street tires. There's also, I believe, one that towed a trailer, much the same way the Jeep did. But there's a couple different versions of this Kubel wagon and a couple different versions of that Willys Jeep that they did over the course of a couple of years, where they were doing this new and then somewhat aborted 124 scale line of military vehicles, because the Kubel wagon and the Jeep are the only 2 things. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what in the world the third girl is going to drive, because at this point they're out of options. So there's that. Fujimi, we already talked about their stuff for this month because that got delayed. And then that'll take us over to Aoshima. So Aoshima's got a number of things out, and we'll try to go through this as quickly as we can because I know we spend a lot of time ranting. First up will be a reissue of the Aventador Super Veloce. This, of course, is just a restock. The original kit sold out. Good on you guys for buying them all up. So this is just producing more as the demand exceeded the production. We have this, which is the Mitsubishi Delica Star Wagon. An oddball vehicle to sell out, but yes, you guys did buy up all of these, and so they had to do another production run of the Star Wagon, which makes a little bit of sense because these kits were last reissued probably 10 years ago or so. And then you have the first 4 of the Grand Champion series kits. So these would be the like I said, the very first 4. And we were just talking about at the beginning of this video. By July, they'll have the first 12 out. So there are, of course, 4 more coming in June, 4 more coming in July. So in the numerical order here, you have the Ken and Mary Skyline 2-door. This is not a GTR. This is just a regular Skyline. And then after that, you have the Toyota Mark II GX41 chassis. And then you have the 330 chassis Nissan Cedric. And then you have the mid-1980s Toyota Celica Supra XX. So all of these come with the little 14-inch tires with the little gumball wheels. The way the wheel sets have been coming. Um, they build up as these Grand Champion style cars. You cannot build them factory stock because there are no factory stock wheel and tire options with it, but there are a number of pieces and parts that come with these kits in order to build them. You can build them in a number of different versions. There's several like wheel sets, steering wheel options, and all sorts of aero parts and things like that, so that you can, in addition to building them the way the box art shows, you can build them in a number of various little personal taste ways as well. So that's kind of cool. You then have reissues of a couple, three VIP cars. So these are the Toon model cars for the month of, well, there's one missing. So these are three of the four Toon model cars for the month of May. And they are the B&N Sports JZX 100 Mark II. This is, of course, an old D1 Grand Prix car with a slightly different decal sheet and tie-in. And then you have the top secret tuning house Nissan Silvia S15. And then this, which is a 1997 Toyota Celsior, which of course is the JDM version of the Lexus LS 4. I believe it's still a 430 at this point. And this is the Auto Couture VIP tuning house version of that. So again, all these kits, I think all these kits have been out recently. I don't think the B&N Sports Mark II has been out too terribly recently, but the Top Secret Silvia gets reissued every year. And I want to say this Auto Couture Celsior has been out at least once in the last 3 years since we've been doing this show. And then the one modified reissue that is new out of Aoshima this week is the Lamborghini Diablo GTR, the Getter Diablo. This kit is probably, I want to say, 40% new. There are a number of shared parts in the terms of the chassis and the interior. The body itself is new, which seems silly, but they did create a new mold for this. Essentially, is a new body, even though the body is identical to the GT street car, because the race car has different wing mounts. It has hood pins molded into the hood, which is something that the test shots did not show, but there are hood pins molded into the hood. They also drilled out the hole for the fuel filler, because there's a race fuel filler in there. New wheels, new tires. The tires are slicks because this is a race car. There were 30 of these things built, and then there were 30 more chassis built afterwards to replace wrecked cars. It ran a single make Diablo Super Trophy series for I believe it was 1992 through 1994. A couple of them got loose in the wild after that. One famously has a Donut King livery that was the championship car in the Australian Touring Championship, which has a different name than that, but it's basically what it is. It won the championship in 93 and 1994 in Australia. There's also one of these that, at least one of these, or maybe a couple of them that ran in Le Mans. So it had a little bit of a race history after they were sort of discharged out of the single make series. Of course, the Diablo, went the way of the maker once the Murcielago came along. Right, Murcielago was next, or Gallardo, Murcielago. It doesn't matter what came next because I'm too tired to care. But I'm sure right now I have a friend of mine just clawing his ears out that I didn't know what that was right off the top of my head. But it's, like I said, been at work, too tired to care. But so very cool. Be interesting to see what liveries are done for this. Again, the Donut King Australian Championship car, probably the best well-known livery for this car. Beyond that, there were, like I said, there were 30 of them made, and I believe all 30 of them basically ran all 3 years in one big cluster. There's some videos of this series on YouTube we found that seem to have at least about 15 to 18 cars per race. And it does have a roll cage. These are center lock wheels. Again, it's a race car. It does look a lot like the street car, but it is a completely and totally race car, race prep thing. The door's still open on it, trunk still opens on it. Everything about the kit is more or less the same, but again, complete and total race car, because race car. And I think, let me see here, we got some wheel sets to talk about on the way out here, but that is it. Yep. So 2 different sets of wheels came out here. They are a set of 14-inch wheels and a set of 20-inch tuner wheels, or I should say VIP wheels. The VIP wheels here are the Glass and Height Disix Revo. There's a very Brabham wheel about this. Look to this. Looks like it belongs on a Mercedes, frankly. And then you have this, the Leonhardert Wolf. Yeah, all right. And then you have the Traffic Star RTMs and the Traffic Star RTSs. So, again, VIP wheels. You got to know what you're getting into with those in terms of what you can put them on. It looks like they're on Celsius, except that last one is on a Toyota Aristo. So there's always that. And then you have the 14-inch wheel sets here. These 14-inch wheel sets, by the way, are the ones that come with these first 4 of the Grand Champion Series cars. So you can buy the whole kit and get the wheels, or you can just buy the wheels. They are the Racing Heart, the 8-spoke, which are basically deep dish Watanabes. This Bilbo set, which looks like a tic-tac-toe pad built into a wheel. And the Focus Racing, which is sort of a mesh wheel, if you will. So, again, those all come with the Grand Champion kits, or now you can buy them separately. So, anyway, guys, that wraps up the show for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. Hope we didn't lose too many of you while I was off on a tangent about Foose kits. Because obviously not everybody's into the Foose thing in the first place. But just want to sort of clear the air and educate people. And at least people who watch this channel religiously can be correct in their assumptions about things. Tell you it's a new toolkit. It's a new toolkit. Subscriber count does not equal information or knowledge. Keep that in mind. Lesson learned. Move on to the next one. So, see you guys on